To ESCA Legal Lounge. My name is KimberMarie. I'm an associate here at ESCA, and I am joined today by our patent partner, Angela. Angela, how are you today?
I'm good, KimberMarie. How are you?
Doing good. It's a Monday, and I think you said earlier it's rainy on your end. It's also rainy where I'm at, so it's kind of a gloomy day. But we'll turn it around by discussing patents, which I know is your bread and butter, and I'm very excited about this subject because you're going to be walking this viewer through why building a patent portfolio is a good business move, even for startups. So, why don't we start off by you kind of just introducing why someone should build a patent portfolio?
Okay, great. So building a patent portfolio is something that really you should be thinking about when you start your business, especially if you have a business with some sort of innovation, whether it be a tech innovation, a consumer product, or any kind of change or improvement on a product, system, device that may be out there. The reason for that is because patents, first of all, you need to file them early on. When once you release your idea or your product, even if you are telling some people that aren't necessarily a huge public announcement, it still qualifies as a public disclosure unless someone is under a confidentiality agreement, a CDA, an NDA, those types of agreements. It is a public disclosure, which that starts your clock. Now, for the US, we're fortunate there is a 1 year grace period from that date that you can do your filing and become protected. However, in other countries, including China, Europe, they don't have that 1 year grace period. So I think that that is one thing that is really important that I always love to share and make sure that business owners, founders, and those who are in the entrepreneurial space really know and understand because it is different than other intellectual property where you need to file sooner as opposed to once you've kind of established your brand and you kind of have more of the money coming in, right? Which is what we all say, oh my gosh, these legal fees. But from that standpoint, it also provides you with a level of protection because basically it's a first to file situation where the first person who files for the patent is considered to be the first person who could get the invention, and what they file could prevent you from obtaining a patent on your invention. That's kind of a high level, but you also have to be the true inventor of it, right? You can't just when you copy someone's idea. But we don't want to get into legal litigation here, right? Like if we don't have to, we don't want to have disputes. We want to make sure that we secure our patents and secure our intellectual property. Now, when we talk about the value of your IP or patent portfolio, what's important is that when you start creating this patent portfolio, you really are creating the start of something of value to your business. Even though it's not tangible, it is valued. Now, if you are a startup, think about this. You are going to maybe pitch other people to get some money, or you just want to do a collaboration, or you want to help grow your business. The more you share, the more people that know about it, that's great for you. But again, you want your protection. So filing that patent first will start the process, and then you will build upon that and have your patents to show them, look, I have this idea, I have this business, and I patented it. It shows that you are now then very serious and you're dedicated to moving forward with this and you have a plan in place. Now, as your business evolves, you may decide that there are additional patents that you might want, which would be an improvement on it, a new product, anything that you are developing, which is different from what you originally started with, would then be something else to consider adding to your patent portfolio and to continually build your patent portfolio. One thing that I think is also important is that there are different ways of doing that, and some will allow you to claim some priority to the first invention, which is the continuation practice of patents, which then allows you to keep building out from that initial idea and help with adding the improvements. So they could either be separate, completely new applications, or they could be continuations, which is another way of building out your portfolio. And it allows you time from when you first come up with the invention and an idea to develop it and grow your portfolio. Another way to grow it is internationally. You can you can make a choice to file in one country, like the US. You could file in multiple countries, which would basically be a PCT application, we call it, where you will do an initial filing. And then you will receive a search report and you will have time, approximately 2.5 years, to then decide which countries do I actually want to enter in and how big do I want this patent portfolio to be and the fees to be. But that gives you a good time to really preserve your rights, get started, and then make decisions based on not only economics, but also where is the market going? Where is my product and my business going? Because those are very important things and they change a lot, especially for entrepreneurs and startups, right? The first 2 years of business, it could be crazy. It could be really slow and then just shoot up, or it could be start up really quick and then kind of level off. And it really just depends on where you are going. So that is really why I think you should focus on building your patent portfolio initially and things to think about. Now, if you didn't start right away, it's okay too. We can talk more about that as well.
Yeah, and I think it would be really helpful for you to also, maybe go a little bit more in depth on what does it look like to monetize the patent portfolio? Like how can you kind of explain that, especially for someone like me where my background isn't patents? Break that down, how that works in a patent portfolio, monetizing it and, leveraging it as a part of your IP.
Yes, definitely. So monetizing your patent portfolio can come in many different ways. You can use your IP to actually get investments. You could from investors, and then you could also use your IP to do licensing agreements. You could license others to use it. And basically, patents allow you to make, use, sell, offer for sale, or import. So any of those you can license to someone. You don't have to license all of the rights. And additionally, you can do licensing based on territory. You could do it based on different business sectors. So if there's a certain area that you specialize in and you want to keep for your business, but there is additional space that could really use and benefit your invention, you could license it to someone else in that space or who may be a leader or trend growing in that space. So then they could take your technology and implement it, and you will get the reward of getting the royalties and licensing revenue for that, which I think is really amazing way to use your IP and patent portfolio in particular. Additionally, once you are established, you may decide that you want to grow, or others one might want to acquire your business, right? So you can then use that as an asset that you have, and that will be part of the valuation when someone is looking at an M&A transaction, and it can help create a higher value for your business, for your IP. It will just benefit you in that way. Now, what if you want to exit the business or think that, you know what, this is going to be better off? It's even if it's either you're not continuing with your business, or maybe you uh, want to move in a different direction, but you have this IP that you developed, you cultivate it, and you invested in. Well, it is an investment, and then there's someone out there who may want it. So they will try to buy, they can buy it from you, and you could sell your patents, which is also another way of monetizing your IP.
Amazing. I know that that is going to be very helpful because even though I don't have experience with this, from my background in undergrad, I know that starting a business, a tech startup, if you will, It's a big undertaking. It can be very overwhelming. So I think this is super helpful for people to understand that just getting the patent is one thing, but there are other ways you can leverage it to bring in other streams of income. So thank you for sharing that. And I know we were briefly discussing earlier before we hopped on to record about non-practicing entities. Maybe you could go into that a little bit. What is it, and how does it overlap with having a patent portfolio?
Yes. And actually, so let's touch on now the litigation side of it, which is where that would come into play.
Perfect.
Now, imagine yourself and you have a group of competitors, or you're a highly successful business, and there are others out there who might say, you know what, I have a patent too, and it's in your space, or it's in a similar space. It happens all the time. Now, what can happen is they could file a lawsuit against you, or send you a cease and desist letter and maybe not file a lawsuit. The value of having a patent portfolio in that situation is then it gives you leverage to say, to respond to them and say, actually, I have this patent. And you may be able to say, I have this patent and you're actually infringing my patent. And that would help with moving discussions along and could lead to settlements. And this settlement could mean that you would just exchange or license patents. You could reduce how much you would actually pay someone in a settlement, or maybe they would have to pay you, depending on the size of both of your portfolios and the alignment of your portfolios and what that conversation would look like. So that's one way. Then what we uh, many times don't like to talk about as patent attorneys, or maybe we talk about it because it doesn't always turn out favorably for our clients, especially if our client is a larger company, are practicing entities, which are basically companies that they buy patents, they hold patents, they're holding companies, they don't practice any of what the assets they own, but it's just they have these assets and then they go and they litigate, or they try to get people to license them from them. So that's what those are the non-practicing entities. Now, those that get a bad name, we also can refer to them as patent trolls, because they take the patents and then they go and they could in bulk find, okay, who could we sue on this? And they'll like cast a broad net and say, we're going to sue all these companies, file the lawsuits. At times, Texas has some federal courts that are known for these litigations. So they find a favorable place and they file them. And I have learned too that many of them, they file them, and then there are definitely a lot of law firms though too that are representing the companies being sued, and they know who is suing them. And the people who are the non-practicing entities have a group of lawyers that are really good at that, and that's what they do. And then there's the ones that represent the actual operating companies, and they also are really good at what they do. And together, it it basically is the non-practicing entities typically they want money, right? They don't want to go to court. They don't want this long lawsuit. They want to settle. They want you to pay them money. But the great part is if you do have a patent portfolio, that gives you something to respond back to them. Because if you don't, you kind of have to talk and negotiate through that, right? And you can imagine that's going to be a little more difficult if you don't have your own patents to say, you know what, I have these patents, let's talk, and really get them to sit down and talk. There are other ways though too in litigation that you could potentially knock them down and get preliminary and get orders from the court to not actually move forward, or to invalidate their patents, let's say, right? There's many things, because they are going to attempt to get money from you, and that's really what they want.